Alright, so working on making an OpenGL real-time version of my voxel renderer. So currently, libraries I'm using are GLM for vectors, this little header file to compile shaders. It's very simple, and I may have to do more with that later. This is from a tutorial I found. It's not very extendable at all. It just loads and compiles a fragment and a vertex shader. Glut and glue. But basically, what we're doing is going through this range from negative 0.5 up to 0.5. I really like these range-based for loops. You can do that in C++ 2011. That's actually really nice. But anyway, right now I've got it set up so that I'm just getting blue points if it's in space, and then if it's on the zero planes, it's black and opaque, transparent if it's not. So yeah, basically we go through the initialization here. It runs and generates all the points. Those are put into two arrays, colors and points. I need to brush up on what exactly all these mean. A lot of this is code from tutorials that I found. I've got a couple books on OpenGL, so it's going to be an ongoing process. But basically, these set up the buffers for the vertex array, and this one for the array of vertex colors. So those are actually the same size. Then there's some simple rotation done with a uniform variable. So this here is the alpha blending. What I'm finding is that it depends on the order in which you are rendering them. What I mean by that is you have to sort them by depth. All the points, you have to sort them by depth if you want them to render correctly. And I'll show what I mean by that in a minute here. In essence, you can get some weird behavior if they're not sorted correctly. Display function is very simple. It just updates the uniform variable for the rotation. Clears the screen, and then draws these vertexes as points. Just to make sure I understand how this works, I think the next thing I'm going to do is add lines at the edges of the cube. So that'll be next. Next is the keyboard function, and this is Q to exit, A to increase the point size, and Z to decrease the point size. That's something I've recently seen done, and I was pretty fond of this. Just as a style guide kind of thing, is to put spaces in between the parentheses there. Kind of keeps things less confusing visually. The idle function rotates the object, so this is called at the end of every frame's display. and then it redisplays again after that. So theta is actually, let me find it here. Yeah, so it's an array of three values basically. So it's x, y, and z rotation. Then yeah, so opening up the in main here, we've got the initialization. Open a window, name the window, then this is code that I'm not entirely certain what glue does, which specific functions it does, because I know glut does all the window functions, but I'm still figuring out a lot about how the rest of it works. This is out of that shader library. It's just a header. It's got like 2 or 3 functions in it. But basically, you give it file names, loading them from here, and they get compiled, and that's how the points are handled after that. This shader value is, or the program basically is passed into the initialization function up here, and that's when it's used there. It tells OpenGL to use those. If we look in here, yeah, GL use program. This program that's held internally. Anyway, then set up the mouse, keyboard, and display functions, the idle function, then enter the main loop, and it's rendering until you hit the letter Q on the keyboard. So I'll go ahead and run this. Now I'll be able to show you what I mean here about the rendering being weird. You saw how everything was white there, and you weren't able to see the black cells through the white ones. That has a lot to do with the ordering of things here. See, now from this angle everything looks fine. This is what it's supposed to look like. And that's because of the ordering of the points in the buffers. Really don't want to have to resort those, because that could take up, yeah, see here. That would take up a lot of time to recompute everything and send it through again. But I think basically the way I'm going to try and use this is have them sorted by depth when I put them into the buffer, and then I'm not exactly sure. It's going to require some thought, but I'm going to have to come up with structures that get around that. But yeah, this is basically what we're looking at right now. I can increase and decrease the point size. Yeah, so it's really looking quite volumetric. Really liking the look of it. It's at least a starting point, so that's what we got running right now.